Hey guys, how y'all doing? Cam here, and welcome back to Cam in Focus, the spot for your favorite and not so favorite geeky films. So last week I discussed my thoughts on Attack of the Clones, but looking back, I feel like I was a little unjustly harsh on it. I feel that no Star Wars film deserves hate, so this time around, I'm going to change my format and see how it goes. Instead of a generic review of the film, I'll be discussing my top 3 favorite things about it and my top 3 least favorite things about it. I feel like this will help me talk about the film a bit more subjectively, so as to not alienate people who may or may not heavily disagree with my overall opinion on it. And I'll try to do something new for each film as well. I'd like to keep things varied so that the content doesn't get too stale. Now, first of all, this film isn't my favorite.
What?
But I do enjoy it quite a bit, so let's get started. This time we're discussing Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Considered by many to be the best film in the prequel trilogy, it's clear that this is the story George Lucas wanted to tell. It's a vast improvement over Episode 2 in almost every way, so let's get started with 3 things that I love about it. Number 1, the characters. There's a lot more care given to how our main characters are portrayed. Obi-Wan is given much more personality as something of a troll to his opponents, and his dynamic with Anakin, now a Jedi Knight, gives much more realism to their relationship. They've fought through a years-long war together, and it's clear that they've grown to understand each other much more.
I sense Count Dooku.
I sense a trap.
Next move?
Spring the trap.
Palpatine is as menacing as ever, and the culmination of his plots throughout the trilogy come to a head in an extremely satisfying way. Watching him go full Sith Lord always brings a smile to my face, and not once does Ian McDiarmid's performance ever feel underwhelming. He's always menacing, you can always feel the tension behind every moment his character is on screen. And his story about Darth Plagueis too, just wow. What can I say that hasn't already been said about that fantastic scene?
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Number 2, the Lightsaber Action. In terms of pure lightsaber action, this film has it and lots of it. They really upped the power and energy of the choreography since Episode 2. Every move is powerful and purposeful, every swing and block fast and precise. It's almost like you're watching a dance. Which tends to be a common criticism of the film for many, but for me personally, it fits well in the Star Wars mythos of Jedi and Sith being able to use the Force to enhance the reflexes and grant themselves, I guess you could call it a pseudo-precognition, where they're almost able to predict their opponent's moves and react immediately. Number 3, everything to do with Anakin Skywalker.
This is where the fun begins.
We really get a true character out of Anakin this time, and despite the criticisms towards Hayden Christensen's performance, to be honest, any improvement over his Episode 2 performance is
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Despite that his line delivery is still a bit monotone, he does put more oomph and emotion into them, and he emotes with his face exceptionally well. I truly did feel for his character all the way through the film, and watching him finally don the mask and armor to finalize his transformation into Darth Vader still gives me chills. Like all Star Wars films, even the best ones, there are some things that I dislike about Revenge of the Sith. Now keep in mind that these things don't break the movie for me, not by a long shot, they're just things that I personally think could have been improved upon. If you disagree, that's totally fine, it wouldn't be Star Wars if people agreed on everything. Number 1, the reasoning for Anakin's turn. Don't get me wrong, Anakin's turn to the dark side is still effective narratively, however, I feel like his reasoning for doing so could have been much better shown to us. The film focuses way too much on his fear of loss, but there are so many other reasons for his fall, such as his allegiance being pulled in all different directions, his distrust of the Jedi Council, and the consequences of the war itself. Parts of these themes are mentioned, but they don't stand out as larger factors as I feel they could have been. Number 2, General Grievous. Yeah, I gotta be honest, I really didn't like General Grievous. There is nothing to his character other than him being a cyborg who coughs a lot and collects lightsabers. He claims to have been trained by Dooku, and yet all he does is flail his lightsabers around wildly. For being the leader of the Separatist droid army, he should have been a much more intimidating and challenging presence. And once he was killed, it didn't really affect the story much at all, because it was immediately followed by Anakin turning to the dark side. Number 3. the majority of the second act. Not to say that it's not good, but I feel like it tends to drag a bit. We kind of jump from one plot building scene to another, and I feel like we wouldn't have needed so much of that if episode 2 hadn't been so bare bones in regards to plot. The first and third acts make the film for me, but the second makes it just a bit easier to get distracted from watching. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. This has been Cam in Focus, proud to be part of the Geek News Now network. And stay tuned for next month. I'll be moving away from Star Wars for a bit to bring you guys something different, which I really think you'll enjoy if you love, as much as I do. Once again, this has been Cam in Focus, part of the Geek News Now network. Find us on Facebook and Twitter, links in the description below. Have a wonderful day, and may the Force be with you.